Alright you guys, how's it going? So today in this video we're going to be replacing the valve cover gasket on a 2007 Ford Ranger 2.3 4-cylinder. This should be pretty run-of-the-mill for all Ford 4-cylinders, at least 2.3. A few more steps involved with this truck versus, like an Escape or something like that, where it's, the intake or the valve cover is right there with nothing on it, but this one's going to have to be a lot more extensive in the fact that there's just a lot more parts we have to remove. Intake manifold has to come off, all that stuff, but I'll walk you guys through step by step and how to do this this timely job. So, yeah. So the reason why I'm doing this is because cylinders 2 and 3, if you pull the spark plug boots, there's a pretty good amount of oil in there. Show you how to remove that. And while we're in here, we're also going to inspect and, if need be, service the spark plugs for gap and whatnot. So, yeah, so let's get started. And but everything I'm doing you can find in the Haynes repair manual. That's what I'm going to be going off of. But, if you guys are doing this, I'll just do a step-by-step so it's easier. So if you guys don't have this, you can just follow along. And it's just time consuming in the fact that there's just a lot of parts that need to come off and everything else, and torque sequences and everything else. So but overall it should be a pretty fairly easy repair on this truck. So yeah, let's go ahead and get started. Alright, so first step in doing this, it's always a good idea, that way in case something, we are disconnecting a lot of electrical equipment here, so good idea is to go ahead and just remove the negative spark plug terminal and make sure that it can't touch the touch ground on the battery. So we'll just throw an insulator up here and make sure that that can't touch. So that's going to be our first step, disconnecting negative battery cable. Alright, so the next step is going to be to remove the throttle body cover, and this is for the newer Rangers. I know the older ones didn't really have this, but keep those bolts together. And that's a 7mm bolt, and so now we have nice access to the throttle body. Alright, next step is going to be to take the air intake tube off. So just a simple flat blade screwdriver on this hose clamp. Just give it a few turns and rotate and simply pull off, just like so. Alright, so I went ahead and completely removed the intake tube, and so you have a couple of deals to fix right here. I've got this connector right here that you need to remove, and so you just push in and rotate that green clamp and pull it off. Also, you have a couple of Christmas tree clips holding on your mass airflow sensor wire harness, and so next we're going to be taking off the throttle linkages on the throttle body. Alright, so next step is to take off your throttle linkages, and so with this little guy right here, it's basically a almost like a ball joint, if you will. So you have a little nipple right here with a ball head on the end, and a little cup that's built into your throttle linkage. So you just take a pair of needle nose pliers and simply grab this top little flange right here and twist this way, and the whole thing pops off. And so this is my aftermarket cruise control that simply just slides right off. And then next we have to remove these little plastic shroudings that keep everything situated. You got one for cruise control if you still have it, or if you added like mine, and then you have the one for your main throttle. So it looks like if you just squeeze it and push back, just like that. That's the throttle undone. Next is cruise control. And out that comes. Alright, next step is to disconnect your throttle position sensor, which is located right here on the throttle body. And so you have a little tab right here. You're just going to push in. You're actually going to push the connector down, push the tab, and then pull out. Comes right off like that. Alright, now we're going to be disconnecting your manifold absolute pressure sensor. Oops. If I can actually get in here. Bit of a tight reach here. We'll disconnect this guy first. Your idle air control valve. There she comes. That's your map. We'll go ahead and do the spark plug, or the ignition coil wire. I don't see anything else. I think that's it that's going to be coming off of the manifold. So, okay. Alright, so I went ahead and just disconnected the ignition coil. Sorry, brain fart. Ignition coil's off. I think this is the evap hose. I could be wrong, but that hose is sitting over there on the chair as well. So basically right now I'm just getting everything out of the way. Next you come out of spark plugs. And actually I'll show you guys right now the cylinders that have the oil. So this is number 3. See that? So luckily they're not swelling too bad, but that's why you will always want to have dielectric grease on your spark plugs. So if it's swollen, then you need new spark plug boots. But in my case, it has not been sitting this long with oil all over it, so I'm just going to be cleaning this off. But as you can see, there's nothing down inside there. It's just around the edge of the boot, which is a sigh of relief. So I'm just going to be checking out. I think number 2 is bad too. Yep. Same thing with number 2. And number 4. That one's not want to come up right now. And these spark plug wires and ignition coil are, still running strong. Which that video is pretty recent here on my channel. If you guys need to replace your, I'll get those in a little bit. If you guys need to replace your spark plugs and or spark plug wires and ignition coil, so I'm gonna get those last 2 cylinders out, and then we'll move on to the next thing. Alright, so the next thing that I've done is I've taken this harness plate right here that's on the side, took those 3, what size are they? 8mm bolts, just to get this out of the way, and then I unclipped the fuel rail line from it, which is, this is where it sat, right there in that plastic clip. And so all those wiring harnesses are now tucked out of the way, and so it looks like, I think these are coolant hoses back here that go up to the intake manifold, so I may need to clamp those off and then remove it. I might look at doing that next. I'm just kind of jumping around seeing what's easily accessible right now. So it's just a big jigsaw puzzle. So yeah, I'm probably gonna do that next, and then I'll keep you guys posted. So yeah, it turns out those are both coolant hoses, and I didn't have any coolant gush out, so I think it's only if you need to clamp it if, like, here, just to show you, like, there's nothing coming out. So I think it's only if your system's under pressure. So I mean, but I'm doing this thing bright early in the morning. My truck is, the only thing I did was pull in the garage. So unless your truck's warm, I don't really see any other problem of coolant coming out of here. But so I think we're good for that. And we're starting to get down to all of our connections and hoses that we need to take off in order to get the manifold off. But I think I see one more sensor down there that I might need to take off, but we'll see. And maybe this guy right here, because I don't know where that's going. But I'm going to try and take this guy off next. Alright, so now I'm in the process of actually removing the intake manifold. I've got one bolt off, fell through the engine, but yeah, you got one right here. That's the first one I took off, and you can gain access through right here. No, good thing I didn't take that off. Oh, yep, there's one right behind the power steering pump right there. I believe there's 5 in total. Where's the other ones at? So yeah, it's just a matter of trying to look through this maze. There's another one on the back side up top here, so it looks like I can gain access through over here somewhere, I hope, because right now I'm just using my 3/8 with a universal and a 6-inch extension, and this is a 10 millimeter socket. So yeah, so now it's just a matter of trying to find, I believe it's all 5, that's what the book says, trying to find all 5 bolts to secure the manifold to the head. Alright, so I'm on bolt number 3 right now, and it's an absolute royal pain to get this one out. So yeah, what I did is I used my 3/8 with a 3-inch extension, because this socket was too wide, the 3/4 inch or 3/8, and so I used a reducer with a 1/4 inch socket set to be able to fit in through this tiny little opening between the intake manifold, and barely squeeze it in. So basically you have to fiddle this way and then look through the valley to be able to see where your socket's going, and if you have a magnet, this is going to be extremely helpful. That way we can just grab the magnet or the bolt and pull it right out. So if you're doing this and you don't have a magnet stick, go get a magnet stick. Alright, so I'm just about to take number 5 off, and this thing is buried. There's no way that I can actually show you where the bolt is, except for where I have that extension. Like, that's how deep it's buried. And you have to take this fuel pressure line, your fuel line. There's a bracket that actually holds it onto the block. You have to take that off and actually carefully, you actually have to push the line down a little bit, like so, and then move all the way to the back side of the engine. And then I was basically putting this hand over here on the extension, and then this hand through here to feel for the bolt, and then wait until the two meet up. So I finally have that socket is on the that socket is actually on the bolt right now. So now it's a matter of squeezing that. I may just get a shorter socket because I got a deep socket in there. Right, sorry, I get the hiccups. Because I've got a deep well socket in there right now, and yeah, that 5th one is just a pain. Like, I thought this one was a pain, but no, that one's a cakewalk compared to that rear one. And then after that one's off, we'll kind of pull it off and then see what last connections we actually physically have to take off the motor, the engine, and then or the intake manifold, I'm sorry, and then we'll pull the entire manifold off. Alright, so some progress has been made, but I have hit a roadblock, another one. I've got 2 roadblocks, that is. As you can see, the intake manifold is pretty much off of the engine. It's just I have 2 things that are in the way. One, I have this hose right here. I don't know where it's going, but the guys at the Twin Cities assembly plant were kind enough to go ahead and put the access points for this hose clamp on the back where it's impossible to get to. And then also there is a Christmas tree clip holding on a wiring harness to the bottom, like where that last bolt was, that bottom deep down corner where it's also impossible to get to. So those are my 2 obstacles right now. Also, before you get to this stage, and I would do it before you unbolt everything, is remove your EGR line right here. And there's also a bracket that bolts to the top of the manifold too for your EGR. And then it's just those last 2 ones, and I think I'm home free to be able to take this manifold off. But man, it's a lot of work to replace one of these valve cover gaskets, but you got to do it. So, you know, in the words of my transmissions teacher, Cliff McCormick, you know, if you're stuck like this, you know, go drink some coffee, smoke a cigarette, drink a beer, whatever you want. Just take a few minutes and just sit there and think, and you know, so. But yeah, it's it's a pain, you know, and you have another Christmas tree clip that goes up here, and there was another one down there. So, I mean, there's just clips and clips everywhere holding shit onto this intake manifold. So, that's really where I'm at right now, and I'm just going to take a breather, take a break, go get some coffee, and, you know, my biggest thing is I need to figure out how to rotate this this hose clamp, because I can't reach it from over there, and I can't get it from there because this is in the way, and it's just too close to the firewall to get any kind of pliers in there. So, you know, that's where I'm at right now. So, but yeah, we'll pick it up once I get the those last connections unconnected, and then finally and hopefully lift this intake manifold off. Ever! Hi! This is my assistant today. Finally got that motherfucker out of here, so excuse my language. But, yep, you have to buy a special tool to take the fuel line off and a bunch of other things, and yeah. Alright, so while she's cleaning out the, go ahead, keep going. While she's cleaning out the intake valves, because they're disgusting, might as well do the maintenance while we're in here. A lot of extra electrical connectors that I just didn't do on camera because I was getting too pissed off. So this hose right here was the worst one. That just did not want to come off. You know, you got your ignition coil map sensor, throttle position sensor, and a ton of Christmas trees that are holding on all the wire harnesses. And then you do have to take the fuel line off. I found that one out. And you also have to take your EGR line out, and as you can see, that's nice and coked up with carbon as well. So we're just going to be in here cleaning while we have the chance, and then we'll get to taking the valve cover off. Alright, so good news, I got the valve cover off. There's 14 bolts, and the valve cover is right here. And the nice part is these are all like carriage bolts or something like that, so where they won't fall out and you won't misplace any of them. And you will need some sort of like a really thin screwdriver, flathead, to pry up, not inside of here, but like on top, on the edge right here, just to break the seal, and the whole thing will come up. And but yeah, you can see what the inside of my engine looks like now, and I mean, I'm excited because this is the first time I've ever, you know, seeing this side of the engine. But you can see right down in there all the oil inside of the spark plug wells. So I'm going to show you how to do that, and then also like a really good note too is how good a shape these cams are in, considering how many miles are on this truck. Got 164,000 on this. I mean, there's, you know, obviously wear on it, but nothing drastic. I mean, like the lobes on this thing are, I mean, in perfect shape. It's in really good condition right now, which makes me extremely happy. Sorry, someone just pulled up in front of the house. But yeah, I mean, this engine's in phenomenal shape, and at least on the top side of it. And so it's a sigh of relief, but it also just shows, you know, if, you know, using arch oil and all that stuff, you're just really, you know, going in here and seeing this. And this is what arch oil looks like with Pennzoil Platinum, the natural gas oil. That's what it's actually looking like. But yeah, it's this thing's in really good shape. I'm really happy with it. So yeah, I'm gonna be pulling these gaskets off, and so this is the main one that failed right here. So when I pull this out, it's probably gonna be pretty hard, because normally they're supposed to be really flexible, but you know, because there is some heat going on up in here. And but yeah, I'm excited that I'm finally to this point and that all the hard stuff's over. You know, reassembly might be a little bit tricky, but you know, we'll get to that stage when it gets there. Also, another note, because I want to, you know, everything that I want, you know, because I want this to be as smooth and painless as a process. That way, you know what to look for and everything else. I had to go ahead and disconnect my PCM to get room, because, like I said, that back hose clamp that I said, you know, that one right there, I had to disconnect this and all the grounds and everything to actually push this harness down to make enough room to actually get the pair of pliers back in there to disconnect it. And then I had my girlfriend hold that side of the manifold, the intake, and actually push towards me while I took a flat blade screwdriver and just pushed the hose off. So that's how we got that hose off. And then what else, you know, and all the Christmas trees, like this one was the worst. I mean, that just shows you how tight it was in there. It actually tore the electrical tape off of the wire harness. So I mean, there's a lot of intricate stuff. And also there was one more electrical connector that you can't see because it's at the very back of the engine, and it's right there. So you also have that one to undo. I found that when I pulled the valve cover off. But yeah, so now I'm just going to keep, you know, looking at my engine and whatnot, because like I said, this is the first time I've seen it like this. And then we'll get to replacing this, all the gaskets that are in here, and probably, knowing me, and you know, just like cleaning the inside of the engine, like all my intake ports, like you can see, they're all pretty nice and good now. And the EGR valve was, or the EGR line right here was just filthy. Like it was just carbon everywhere. And if I can find one of the Q-tips I threw over here. No, okay. So, but I mean, just like globs and globs of goop were just coming out of this thing. So, you know, this is a good time to do your maintenance. You know, while you're in here, just go ahead and just clean. But yeah, I'm really happy about the shape of that crank, or the cams. So they're holding up extremely well. So I'm really happy about that. But yeah, and then like I said, you will need one of these fuel line removal tools to get the fuel line, because you need to get it out of the way to get the intake manifold off, because it's just too wide. So I have the fuel line just kind of sitting right here, and make sure that you relieve the fuel pressure first, which the quick and easy way to do it is simply to take the Schrader valve cap off of the Schrader valve here. Sorry, my boss just drove by and was wondering what I was doing. Yeah, so just cleaning, and you know, you guys basically get the overview of that. And but you know, like I said, knowing me, I'll probably end up you know, getting some degreaser and whatnot and just cleaning the top of this valve cover, because I want it to look all nice and new and pretty, because I'm OCD that way. And but yeah, the intake gaskets and everything else are still in great shape, so I don't need to replace those. Yeah, so I'm definitely having fun on this. You know, it's taking it all apart. You can, you know, you're gonna be wanting to throw wrenches and tools and everything else and say every single swear word in the English language. And but you know, it's the things you got to do. But like I was saying with the fuel pressure, that's right. I just took this center punch, and you want to take a rag and sort of cup it underneath this fuel rail, and then just barely push it, and the pressure will release. The other way to do it, which is, I should have done it before, but you know, it's actually a lot more complicated, is to basically flip the inertial switch that goes off when you have a crash, and then crank the engine. That's how Haynes wants you to do it. But you know, this is the way I was taught at school, is just relieve it there. And so before you go ahead and disconnect that fuel line. But fuel lines look good, they're not really dirty. So that means the Arch Oil AR6200 is doing its job, cleaning everything out. But so I'm going to be cleaning all these mating surfaces up, making sure they're all nice and clean as they can be. And then like I said, we'll go ahead and then I'll also show you how to take all that oil out of your spark plug wells. And you don't want to use compressed air, because then you're just going to get oil everywhere. So, but I'll show you a little trick that I learned, and we'll pick that up next. Alright, so now we're on to cleaning the spark plug wells out, and I'm going to show you two different methods. One is a lot easier if you have this. It's an oil sump. Use it to suck oil out of the pan if it's a really low car like my dad's Mercedes over here. And so I already did one, and I just want to show you the before and after. I'm not done with it yet, but you can see the difference. So, and you don't want to pull the spark plugs out, because then all that oil is going to go into your cylinder. You're going to burn oil once you start it up, and possibly hydrolock it. I mean, one way you could do it is just take all the spark plugs out, disconnect the fuel once you put everything back together, and simply you know, just crank the engine and let it push everything out. Then you're going to end up with oil all up in here. Not pretty. So I'm going to do this method first with the paper towels. Let me set you guys down here just for a second. Okay. So you're going to want to get a paper towel. You know, regular towels like terry cloth, stuff like that work too. But what you want to do is you want to fold it up a few times to give it some thickness here. and we'll do right there. And you just want to stick the screwdriver right down in here, and then you're going to stick it right down inside the well there, right to where it bottoms out, and then you just leave it in there to let it soak up all that oil. And so that's one method. And then really quick, while that's soaking all that oil up, we're going to take this line here and we're going to stick it right down in that well. And again, I'm going to set you guys down, and when I'm pumping this thing, you'll hear all the oil get sucked out. So I wish I had more than two hands so I could show you that my girlfriend was here not getting lunch, but oh well. So but yeah, that's how I get the majority of the oil out, and you can just see all the oil that's in there. And so yeah, you can see how much cleaner and drier it is in there now, which is a lot better. And let's see how our paper towel did. So it's barely picking anything else up because there's not much in there anymore after I did that the first time. But yeah, that's looking much better in there now. And so I'm just going to keep doing that just to suck out any remaining oil that may be in the spark plug wells themselves. And then yeah, we'll get to replacing the gaskets on the valve cover. Alright, so now I'm going to start working on these gaskets, and if you have like a pick tool or like a dentist pick or something, it makes it a lot easier. And so I'm going to try to kind of prop you guys up here so you can see this. Okay, hopefully you guys can see that. But yeah, you just want to get in here and sort of work these gaskets out of here. And you know, these things should be pretty fluidic in the way that they move, and you can just, like, this thing is really rough, I guess you could say, and stiff. So that's this one, and then this is the one that failed. This is the gasket that is no bueno. And you can, I don't know if you can see that, but when I push it, there's a ton of oil getting seeped around there. So this is definitely, and you can see all the gap in between here. But yep, this is definitely the gasket that failed, because obviously I had spark. Oh man, this thing is really hard. Like, this almost feels like cardboard, and it shouldn't. It should feel like rubber. Wow. And it's like flaking apart in my hands. Like just a ton of grit and everything else from the gasket itself. So really old gaskets, but I mean, you know, this is I'm assuming this is all still original. But yeah, these things are hard as a rock, which is not what you want with a gasket. So now we're going to take the outer out. You can just hear that, which part of it's these little grooves that hold it in, but the other part of it is because this thing is so hard. And there we go, there's the outer. So that's all the old gaskets out, and so now what I'm going to do, because I'm such a clean freak and I don't want to do this again, is I'm going to take a rag with that screwdriver and just run the entire inside of this to get any crud that may be inside of here out. So just like with the spark plug wells, got a paper towel here with a screwdriver, and I'm just running along the insides of these channels here. And you can see all the crud that's coming up out of them. So a little bit of due diligence here will save me from having to tear this thing apart again. Yeah. And especially on this inside one, which it's just picking up all kinds of oil. Look at that. just flooded with oil in here. So, yep, all those are cleaned out now, and then just like up there on the valve, on the head, I guess you could say, I'm going to be cleaning the entire mating surface and whatnot to make sure that everything is just as clean as possible. Alright, so the new gasket is in place now, well, all 4 of them, and they're going around everything else. It fits pretty well, not an exact fit, but it's kind of to be expected of a aftermarket gasket, but everything's in and it fits well, and so now we're going to go ahead and put this back onto the engine. Alright, so we got the valve cover back on, and really quick, if you want to pause, this is the tightening sequence right here. And let's see, valve cover bolts, 89 inch-pounds is what we're going to be torquing these to. Inch-pounds, not foot-pounds, but inch-pounds. So make sure either you convert to inch-pounds or you get an inch-pounds torque wrench. Well, got the valve cover back on, everything's torqued down to spec, and now we're going to start the reassembly process and install the air intake, or the intake manifold. Alright, you guys, so sorry for kind of skipping ahead on the reassembly on this thing, but it was getting so long in the, and just how long I've been working on the truck. I mean, total time, I mean, not including wrench time or anything. Wrench time, it was probably 3 hours, but it was just, just like with taking this intake manifold off, that 5th bolt that's just buried back here, just took absolutely forever to get back in, because it's just, it's such a bad access point, I mean, I'm out, off the, with the engine out of the truck, I'm sure it's beautiful, but, yeah, so, but reassembly was actually a lot faster than disassembly, partly because, I already knew what to look for, because, I already took the whole thing apart. A couple of tips, though, when you're putting the intake manifold back on, make sure that you have all of your harnesses kind of pushed out of the way, because when I did that, when I actually had this thing bolted on to the head again, the intake manifold bolted up to the head, I was reconnecting all of my sensors, all of the harnesses to the sensors, and I noticed that my map sensor was the connector was nowhere to be found, and it was actually pinned not on the fuel rail but right next to it. So we actually had to loosen up a few bolts and then kind of pry this up a little bit, just a hair, to get that connector out. So that's another tip right there. Yeah, it's just, reassembly is the exact opposite of assembly, or disassembly is God, I can't talk today. Reassembly is just a exact opposite of what I showed you for disassembly on this. And you'll experience it if you guys are doing this on this engine, that reassembly is a lot easier than disassembly, at least once this is back on. So I think I've logged maybe 130 miles after this repair, and there is no leaks anywhere, everything is still solid. There are no leaks anywhere on this engine, and the main reason why I did this repair is because, yeah, it wasn't misfiring yet, but it's just a matter of time before that oil just seeps so far into your spark plug boots that your engine's just going to misfire, because it's finding an alternate source to ground for the spark plug, for all the current that's going through there. And then also another tip, it's not really required, because you didn't completely re-flash the PCM, but it's just something that I did when I reconnected my PCM and everything. After I triple checked every single connection, I went ahead and just make sure everything's off in your system, close the door, AC, lights, everything off, and then just sit there and just key don't turn the truck on, just key the ignition to the accessory and on, you know, that spot just before you crank it, and just let it sit there for about 15 seconds to reestablish what absolute zero is for every single system on the truck. You know, it's just preventative. That way you don't get any check engine lights. But yeah, I haven't had any check engine lights. The truck's running beautifully still. You know, I should get another good 7 to 10 years out of that gasket, you know, because I was so diligent on actually doing this correctly, which is why it took a little bit longer. And this is why I work on my own truck and I don't send it to other people. Yeah, so that was really it. You know, everything's still holding up great. You know, the valve cover still looks good after I, you know, degreased it and washed it and everything. But yeah, so I know this is a little bit, you know, drawn out and whatnot, and I'm sorry I didn't show you the reassembly process. I was just getting to the point of so frustrated I just didn't want to even get on the camera. So, because, you know, and it was just that last bolt. Like, that last bolt took me about a half an hour to get in, because, you know, there were a few times I actually had the torque wrench on it, and when I was going to turn the wrench, the socket would just pop off, you know. And that's when you just need to take those breaks, and that's why this whole job took so long, was because of those breaks that you just need to take so you don't lose your mind. But yeah, I mean, like, you know, simple stuff like this, just if you're familiar with your truck, you know exactly how it looks underneath here with all your, you know, you should, with all your regular maintenance, you know. And like this hose, you know, just make sure you feed it up underneath here and through the intake manifold so it can go back over where it needs to go. Yeah, so that's pretty much it. Yeah, like I said, I found all those parts on Rock Auto. It's where I buy, you know, 99% of all my replacement parts, because it's just, you know, cheap and they get it to you pretty quick. Yeah, so comments, questions, leave them down below. Feeling generous, hit that like button. And also, I'm looking at doing a giveaway for this channel once we hit 1,000 subscribers. So, you know, tell your friends, everything else, just share the videos. And once we get to 1,000, I've got a product coming in soon that I'm going to be doing a review on, and we'll look at doing a giveaway on that product. So keep an eye out for that. Tell your friends. Not trying to solicit or anything, but you know, I just want to reward you guys. And I'm sorry it's only one gift, but you know, you got to start somewhere. So you know, because without you guys, I wouldn't really, you know, be making these videos for you and everything else, and I don't get such a joy out of it, you know. But seeing my phone's mailbox light up with all the comments that you guys leave and all the positive feedback, you know, it's you know, thank you. So it's a reassurance of taking all this time and effort to show you guys how to work on your Ranger or anything else that I show you guys. So just a big thank you, guys. And yeah, so more videos will be coming up soon. I got another one for the Arch Oil AR 6200 in the works right now. Yeah, so thanks for watching, guys. Take care.